Hello there everyone, it's me EDJ here, and we're continuing with the Oversimplified series by now looking at another two-parter of his called The French Revolution. Now, I actually do know a lot about this topic. We learned about the French Revolution back when I was in sophomore in high school, and I actually took a really big interest in it. I was looking up a bunch of videos regarding it, the figures like Maximilian Robespierre, Saint Just, the big heads who were behind it. It's just, I don't know why, but I had a phase where I was just obsessed with the French Revolution. Even saw this really good film. It's called The French Revolution. It was, I believe, made in 1989, but it's a really good film. It's free on YouTube. Just type in French Revolution 1989, and it'll be the first video, the Years of Light, the Years of Terror. It's a two-parter. But overall, yeah, there's a lot to talk about the French Revolution, and I've kind of talked about it a little bit back in the Napoleon Oversimplified video. How much of a bloodbath and how this first revolution in particular, because France had several others, was just kind of a pointless bloodbath that just led to a lot of death and suffering. So, I don't know, like I said, me and my friends back then used to just make fun of this thing and we would call it a failed revolution, because that's how we saw it. That's how I still kind of see it, but it's there's a lot to talk about, and I'm pretty sure Oversimplified's gonna go over it. And I'll kind of be sharing my thoughts or whatever throughout the video like I normally do. And yeah, that's about it. Before we get started, I want to give credit where it is due. I do not own this video. This is all Oversimplified's work. Feel free to subscribe, follow, and support the man. He deserves every bit of success he has and more. And with that said, without any further ado, let's just get right into it. Let's watch Oversimplified's The French Revolution.
Video was made possible by NordVPN. Get protected by clicking the link below and get an amazing 75% off. That's only $2.99 per month with an additional month free for a limited time. Also, new French Revolution merch available now in the store,
I might buy
including
that.
King Louis and Marie Antoinette character pins, complete with detachable heads, just like the real thing. So I said to the Marquis de la Fufayette, "What do you think I am? Some dirty peasant? I've never worked a day in my life." Wow, that Marie Antoinette sure is pretty. Sure is. Wouldn't want to be Prince Louis though.
Poor
That's going to
Prince
be a
Louis.
lot of responsibility when he becomes king, especially since France is in financial
Yeah,
ruin.
Louis inherited
Thank you one and all
France
for
not when
attending
it
the
was
royal
at
marriage of
its
my
best,
grandson,
right?
the future king of France, to the Archduchess of Austria. Now for the very awkward yet
Oh
historically
wait,
accurate.
I know what he's about to say. Okay, I remember my teacher talking about this, where she mentioned during the night of their wedding, I guess there was a part where they got into bed and everyone watched. I don't remember if they watched while they were doing the act, but they definitely watched them get into bed, ready for sex. So either way, that's a little awkward, huh?
Part of the ceremony where we all watch them get into bed together.
That's a nerve-wracking way to lose your virginity.
All right, now that's out of the way. Let's leave the royal couple to it. You better give us an heir, you fat, ill-bred boy. Nighty-night. That's gonna be a lot of responsibility. France is in financial ruin. You fat, ill-bred boy. Quite. That's gonna be a
Quite.
lot of responsibility. France is in financial ruin. You fat, that's gonna be a lot of responsibility. Oh, great. He's a freaking weirdo. France, the most prosperous, cultured, and beautiful nation in the world. As it had been for
face there.
centuries. An exquisite social culture, with the king and the upper classes throwing crazy parties every night, enjoying high living and fine dining. Who cares that they were only able to do so off the backs of the hard-working, starving poor? What are they gonna do? Revolt?
No
They're
way.
Only 80% of the population. No. Life in France is great. What's that, France? You want to go to war with Britain and increase your power? Go for it, little buddy. You do you. And you lost. Now you're in severe financial debt. We have no money. What do? Should we stop partying? Heck no. Party harder. That's okay. The peasantry will pick up the slack. They were created by God to do all the work, and you were created to reap all the benefits and party hard. That's just how society works, and we've all just accepted it for centuries. Why? Why what? Why do the nobility get to be all rich and
I
stuff?
love you just see, like... It's really... It's almost like the Russian Revolution video that we covered, almost like all over again, like the same structure, which is funny, you know what they say about history repeating, and yeah, you see it in instances like this, like the lower class being, you know, oppressed or stepped on, while the upper class reaps all the reward for little to no work, and it just leads to all this. It's, I don't know, even like King Louis reminds me a lot of like Tsar Nicholas, and I'll talk more about that as the video goes on, hopefully later.
Just because they were born into it, and the rest of us schmucks just have to accept that? Hell, why do we even need a king? Who decided that? It all just seems very unfair and unequal, and I, for one, am starting to question it. Wow, that's very enlightened of you. And so began the Age of Enlightenment.
Yes.
Great philosophical thinkers across France and beyond began to question whether this beautiful nation was really all that beautiful after all. Hey, Prince Louis, bad news. Your grandpop died of smallpox this morning, which means, good news, you're now the king. So just to sum up, France is in severe financial debt, and the angry populace are beginning to question how necessary you are. But hey, I believe in you, champ. You got this. Maybe.
Oh no?
Oh no! Prince Louis?
Okay, yeah, so... Yeah, there's a lot of things I see with Tsar Nicholas from the Russian Revolution video and King Louis. Like, these guys were not fit to rule. Tsar Nicholas was pretty aware of that, but he went for it. King Louis, I'm pretty sure, was aware that he was not ready for this, but... You know, I guess when you've ascended the throne, it's like, I'm just gonna have to do this. It's not so that you can just say, no, I'm not gonna do, you know? I imagine that's how it was like then, so... I don't know, but I kind of feel bad for King Louis the same way I felt bad for Tsar Nicholas. And I'm not excusing all his mistakes. I'm not excusing what he did to, you know, the lower class, and not excusing any of that, but I'm just saying I can't help but feel bad sometimes for these people, you know? It's just like, eh. And also their untimely ends where they were both executed. See, a lot of parallels. See what I mean?
Capet became King Louis XVI in May 1774. He was a notoriously weak man, and he knew it. He barely had the wisdom to rule a nation, never mind one in crisis, and he was easily manipulated by those around him. One of his first acts was to try to get revenge on the British by financing their American colonies'
something I was talking to myself earlier where I was thinking, like, I was looking a lot about the American Revolution, and something I think us Americans sometimes don't even talk much about is the French really bailed America out, huh? Like, I'd almost wager that there would be no United States if it weren't for the French support. And yeah, I think so too, you know. And, you know, it was really cool of the French to do that, but it really screwed them in the back, because they did this obviously despite Britain, and they did win. In a sense, they helped us gain independence, but yeah, it does not turn well for the French, because they don't really reap much immediately, because America practices neutrality when, you know, later on. Sorry. So yeah, the American practices neutrality while the events of the French Revolution are going on, and even when France and Britain are going at it again a little bit later, I guess during the time of Napoleon. So yeah, this didn't really help much. This did not help the French at all.
Revolution. Hey, we're an independent nation now. That was real swell of you, Louis. Couldn't have done it without you. Glad I could help. So hey, about all that money we lent you, when can we get that back? Yep, you're a great guy. I'll never forget what you've done for us. Real glad
Thanks
I could
for the
help,
help,
friend, but
dude.
about
Bye.
that money. Gotta go now, chum. Best of luck to you.
Oh no.
Oh,
no.
and now France was in even more debt. France is poor, suffering under the strain of economic ruin, watched as the nobility continued to live as though nothing was wrong. In particular, they grew increasingly disdainful of the Queen, Marie Antoinette.
Yeah, okay, so they really hate Marie Antoinette was really hated. I don't know about the general consensus of modern day views, but yeah, during this time she was hated because, you know, I remember one of the reasons is because she was like spending a lot, really full, you know, kind of symbolizing a lot of the carefreeness of the nobility while the lower class suffered. And I think one famous instance is when they were storming the castle, I believe, and then she asked, I think, a guard or something, like, what's going on? And they told her, hey, they're hungry, and she was like, oh, just feed them cake. Again, I'm not sure if that's exactly how it went or if that's even how it happened, but it was kind of to showcase just how disconnected her, and I guess by extension the wealthier off people of France were towards the plight of the peasants. Peasant sounds like such a mean word. I was trying to find something nicer. I mean, I'm a peasant, you know, middle class, but oh well.
As she continued to spend all of France's money on her own luxurious lifestyle
Yes.
and fashion, while the peasants were breaking their backs in the fields, she was walking around like, hey, my hair is about. I'm not making that up. Her hair really was
That is
about.
insane,
And her
dude.
lavish spending earned her the nickname Madame Deficit. And speaking of the Queen, there was also a long-standing scandal around the fact that the king took a very long time to boink her, and the working classes of Paris began ridiculing the royal couple with lewd pamphlets depicting the Queen as a court thought, and
Oh,
the king as a wuss,
wow.
unable to fulfill his marital duty. Respect for the monarchy
Well,
was
he
at
did
an
get her
all-time low,
pregnant.
as
No one can
France's
deny
finances
that.
were spiraling out of control, and the king and his aides really only had one solution to the crisis: tax the poor. Tax the poor. We could do a sexy calendar shoot. I mean, tax the poor.
Yeah.
And so it was. The poor, who were already struggling to make ends meet, found themselves being taxed from every direction. Hey, I'm the royal tax collector. Looks like you've yet to pay your income tax, head tax. By the way, how many windows you got in that house of yours? 3? Oof. Yep. There's gonna be a tax for that. Hey, your local priest here. Have you paid your church tithe yet? Well, at least this one is going to the good work of God.
Yes, church corruption.
God. I think this year God wants me to buy a new swimming pool. Hey, private tax collector here. Oh, and I brought some goons with me. Just a few quick questions. How much salt did you buy this year? About 7 kilos, I think? Yep. Okay, there's gonna be a tax for that. Oh, what's that over there? And that's extra salt I held over from last year, so I wouldn't have to buy as much this year. Oh, yep, there's a tax for that. And what are you doing with all of this salt? Well, obviously cooking. On the table. Yep. And preserving fish and meat. Oh no. Yep. And there's a tax for that. Hey, how old is he? He's 9. And so he's purchased his required amount of salt for this year, right? No, he's 9. Uh-oh. Sorry, little Timmy. Looks like I'm gonna have to tax you for that.
Being 9.
Yep. Salty. There's gonna be a tax for that.
Oh my
And
gosh.
that's not all. A huge portion of the peasants' harvest had to be given up, and there was also the labor tax, where peasants were required to work a certain number of days for their local lord without pay. Obviously, people weren't too happy with these taxation policies,
of
and the
course.
aggressive nature of these private tax farmers sometimes even escalated to violence. In particular, though, the people really hated how inconsistent the taxation rules were across the nation, and also the fact that the first 2 estates often had to pay very little, if any tax at all. And so, the anger continued to grow. France had a population that was just about ready to explode. What could push them over the edge? How about a touch of natural disaster? A series of harsh summers and winters left the peasants' harvests in ruin, meaning they had no food or money, and the cost of bread skyrocketed.
Oh, dang,
Of
yeah.
course, the upper classes had massive stocks of grain and wheat, so they were virtually untouched by this new crisis. But now the poor really were starving, and they began to riot. Women took to the streets. Bakeries were raided, and bakers suspected of keeping bread for themselves were sometimes even hanged.
Let's see where this one takes me. Experience more with hard to get tables.
I hate YouTube ads so much, guys. You have no idea.
Make more of what's yours.
I have a challenge for all of you. Go to every computer in your house, your mom's, your dad's, your sister, your brother's computer, and install.
Dang. Wow, this is really getting out of control. Your Majesty, we need some decisive action. You need to step up and lead us. What will you do? Okay, I've got this. I know. I'll summon the Estates General, and they'll decide what to do. You really are a fat, ill-bred boy.
Okay, I think, yeah, the Estates General wasn't summoned for, like, was it 100 years or a little over? Well, I think he's about to say.
The Estates General was the closest thing France had to a government, apart from the king. It was a purely advisory body, and was rarely summoned. In fact, it hadn't been summoned for 175 years.
Oh, okay, I got
prior
that.
to this.
Right.
But with France in a severe crisis, the king felt the time was right to call on the government to help. The Estates General was made up of representatives from the three estates, that is, the clergy, the nobility, and everybody else.
Okay, I remember that this whole Estates General does not work out well. Because mainly, the three estates, the first two, the clergy and the nobility, I think it was a vote. It wasn't based on the population size of each estate, because by that extension, the third estate would always win, right? It was based on a vote between the three, and that's an odd number. So the first two estates would vote, and then the third one would vote against. But since 2-1 always wins, the third estate basically gets screwed over. I think this is the most knowledgeable I've ever been in an oversimplified video. All the other videos, I'm just speculating. And like, oh, maybe this happens. But I actually kind of know what's going on for once.
Okay, thanks for coming, everyone. The first order of business is regarding the clergy and nobility. You all get brand new Porsches. You get a Porsche, and you get a Porsche, and you get a Porsche. Everybody gets a Porsche. And now into the second order of business. France is completely out of money. Like, it's never been this bad before. Anyone got any ideas? How about we all get Lamborghinis next time? The king decided that in order to make a decision, they had to come up with a voting system. Okay, the clergy. You have a population of 130,000, so you'll get one vote.
Mm-hmm.
The nobility. You have a population of 350,000, so you'll also get one vote. And the third estate. You have a population of 27 million people and make up 98% of the population.
One
Very
vote?
impressive. You'll get one vote. The third estate were obviously pretty unhappy with this system,
Of
because they
course.
kept on finding that this would happen. We propose to raise taxes on the third estate. All in favor? All opposed? 2-1. Taxes will be raised on the third estate. We propose a motion that says the first two estates are a bunch of poo-poo heads. All in favor? All opposed? 2-1. It's official. We are not poo-poo heads. The third estate realized that any attempt at reform would be outvoted by the two upper estates.
Yes.
And they thought that was kind of lame. So they decided that
Yeah.
since they were 98% of the population, they could go off to form their own government, make their own laws, and take over the running of the country. And so, the National Assembly was born. The third estate was now in control, and there was nothing the king could do to stop. Haha!
Oh
I've
yes,
locked you.
okay, so this is something else. Locking them out of the building. Sorry, it's such a funny thing, but yeah, I think the third estate, instead of lying down, they go into like a tennis court and make an oath. The tennis court oath, or something. Wait, I think he's about to cover it.
You all out of your building. What are you going to do about it? We'll probably go find a different building that isn't locked.
Oh no.
Ow, no! The National Assembly did find another unlocked building, just down the road, an indoor tennis court. We're on the 20th of June, 1789, They all took the tennis court
Yes.
oath, pledging to continue meeting until the king finally gave in to their demands for more equality and economic reform. This new National Assembly included many of the most educated members of the Third Estate, including two young lawyers by the
Yes.
names of Maximilien
And Georges
Robespierre
Danton.
and Georges Danton. Some members of the first two estates even joined their cause. Some of these men formed a radical new political party called the Jacobin Club and quickly became leading figures. While many members of the Third Estate simply wanted more equality, a growing number in this Jacobin faction would begin calling for something even crazier, the removal of the king entirely. And this is where fear began to take hold. With such a volatile situation developing, everyone was afraid of something. The king feared his position was under threat, and he called in the military to take position around Paris. The Third Estate heard rumor of the gathering military force, and they feared the king was planning to round them up and arrest them. Maybe he'd even execute them. It also didn't help that the king had just dismissed France's popular finance minister, who had been trying to make reforms himself. It seemed the king was done negotiating. Fear, left unchecked, often boils over into anger.
Yeah, so... Oh man, I wonder if I'm jumping the gun too much saying this, but you're kind of seeing the pieces of... I'll get to it, wait.
And anger detonates with violence. The
Yes.
angry people of Paris, after centuries of cruel inequality, harsh oppression, even starvation, fearful of having their new movement for reform demolished so soon, decided that it was now or never to take action. Screw reform. They decided they'd do one better. How about revolution? The people of Paris, believing the French military was preparing to attack, decided they should arm themselves. The
They
National
stormed the
Assembly announced the
Bastille.
creation of a bourgeois militia, the National Guard, and immediately, many troops from the French military defected over to the revolutionary side. In the early hours of July 14th, 1789, a large crowd stormed and raided the Hôtel des Invalides, a military hospital where they were able to secure a large number of rifles. The bad news was they weren't able to find any gunpowder for their new weapons.
Then
The
they
good
stormed
news
the
was
Bastille,
They knew
right?
exactly where to get it.
With all the energy and all
Gosh
the
darn it.
chaos, sometimes I need to use my link buds to tune out the world. What's most important for my focus is finding the time to truly get in my zone.
Didn't think it hurt this much when best friends break up.
A prison fortress and a symbol of royal tyranny towering over Paris, the Bastille. Mid-morning, the crowd gathered around the Bastille and demanded that the man in charge, Governor Delaunay, surrender the prison and hand over the gunpowder. Obviously, Governor Delaunay was like, no way. So he stalled for time by inviting a few members of the crowd in for negotiations. The crowd, still waiting outside, quickly became impatient, and before long, they stormed the fortress, taking on the French troops inside. Your Majesty, we've received word that the people have surrounded the Bastille. Governor Delaunay will hold them off. No need to worry. Actually, Your Majesty, it appears the crowd is now headed away from the Bastille. You see? What did I tell you? Clearly, Governor Delaunay has defeated them and has them on the run. No
Nope.
need to worry. Your Majesty, isn't that Governor Delaunay's head on a pike? Well, clearly, Governor Delaunay has taken on the form of a bodiless pikehead deity, and the people are so enamored with him, they're parading him around the city. No need to worry at all. When the National Assembly...
Okay, so I guess now is the best time or anything. I was gonna say it earlier, but I'm not sure if I'm jumping the gun sometimes. I always keep saying this, but the French Revolution was a bloodbath. Like, it is insane, and it's gonna get even worse, but you're starting to see, like, how it gets to that, like, you know, no revolution is, like, bloodless, obviously, but something about this French Revolution in particular is so bloody and violent and full of, like, hate and rage. It's insane. Like, it's probably... I'm sure there are others, but I think this is the most well-known of the really ultra-violent and just downright gruesome revolutions of all time, you know? I'm sure there are others, obviously, but I think this is the one that most would be aware of, and the one that I know of, so... It's just insane, man. It gets really bloody and violent.
heard about the violence that had taken place, they had two options. Either one, they denounce it and try to carry on the revolution using peaceful means, or two, they say, damn, you stuck his head on a pike? That's pretty hardcore. And we love it.
Yeah, that's kinda what
Incidentally,
happened.
They went with option number two. Some historians believe this reaction paved the way for the utter violence and bloodshed that would become the legacy of the French Revolution. This widespread acceptance of violence during the Revolution is also largely credited to the writings of a certain
Jean-Paul Marat. He had a newspaper, The Friend of the People, I think, something like that. And he called a lot for blood and, like, death, and incredibly influential figure. Everyone was just paying attention to this dude, you know, and yeah, even in death, like, his death even led to even more violence, so I don't know, it's insane.
Man of science with a horrible skin condition that kept him confined to a
bathtub.
Yes,
he was
began
confined
writing a
to
radical newspaper he affectionately named The Friend of the People. Citizens of France, be very afraid. Given the chance, the king and the nobility won't hesitate to massacre us all. The solution is simple. Execute them. Kill every last one of them. Cut off 1,000 heads. And if that's not enough, cut off 1,000 more. Oh, hey, Mr. Squeaky. What are you doing down there? You're so cute. Aw, I love you too, Mr. Squeaky.
So unhinged, yeah.
Now, where was I? Oh, yeah. Kill them all. It became one of the most popular publications in Paris during the Revolution and succeeded in spreading ever-increasing fear and anger among the people. In August, leaders of the National Assembly, with help from a certain Thomas Jefferson, adopted the Declaration of the Rights of Man.
Yeah, Thomas Jefferson had a real love for the French. I remember a lot of this is from watching an HBO series called John Adams, starring Paul Giamatti. It's really great. If you haven't seen it, I'd really recommend seeing it. But yeah, Thomas Jefferson had a real love for the French, and he was involved in this whole event. He was there for like the early part of it, and yeah, I see, like, I think he and many of the people, I think Thomas Jefferson saw, like, oh, they're trying to emulate what we did, like, in America, but I think America, like, what we did, we weren't doing as much bloody, gory violence as the French, because, like, I think that's the main difference. The French Revolution took it too far with the bloodletting and the killing, and it's just all over the place, man. Oh, yeah.
And of the citizen. An incredible document that guaranteed liberty and equal rights to all men. And when I say men, I mean men. Despite its glaring shortcomings in gender equality, the massively influential declaration would go on to inspire the struggle for liberty and equality across the planet for centuries. However, back in France, the vast majority of the people weren't really so concerned with enlightened ideas of equality as much as they were concerned with the fact that they were still starving. Bread was still expensive as hell and hard to come by. The people felt that one reason nothing had been done yet about the crisis was because the king simply couldn't see the problem. He lived in Versailles, a full 20 kilometers southwest of Paris, and as a result, lived in comfort, separated from his dirty, stinking subjects.
Very disconnected from the plight of the normal
7,000
people.
strong, decided they'd do something unprecedented. They decided they'd remove that separation and confront the king directly. The women marched all the way to the king's palace in Versailles. Along the way, the crowd continued to grow into the tens of thousands, and when they arrived, they demanded an audience with the king. What are those things outside the palace? They're poor people, your majesty. That's poor people? They say they're hungry. Hungry? Then let them eat cake. Wow.
Yeah, there it is.
Exact BS that led to this whole mess in the first place. You're so out of touch. They're writhing around in the filth, breaking their back to barely scrape by, and they come to you demanding just the basic ability to feed themselves, and you think a slice of cake will sort them out? Well, then let them eat Taco Bell Crunchwrap Supreme. Wow. They're not that bad. Members of the crowd actually managed to
I
break
hate
into the
Taco Bell
palace
too,
with
by
the
the way.
intention of
It's
killing the
disgusting.
queen, who narrowly escaped through a secret passage in her bedroom. The enraged mob killed several members of the royal guard and raised their heads on pikes.
See,
which, if
with
you
the
haven't noticed yet,
violence,
is something they were
yes.
quite fond of doing. The king had no choice but to come out and talk to the crowd. He agreed to accept his new position, sharing power with the revolutionary government, and to return to Paris with the crowd, removing the separation between king and subject. King Louis had a problem with people constantly raiding his palace, but one thing he didn't have a problem with was people raiding his computer. because he used NordVPN.
Yes.
If, like me, you don't like hackers stealing your data, password, bank deets, and girlfriend, then you need to check out NordVPN. With over 5,000 servers in 60 countries, it allows you to surf the net anonymously and safely with no personal data logging. It's super easy to use. You can take a trip to a server in Japan with just a click of a button. And while you're there, why not check out some sweet Japanese Netflix? Or maybe you want to watch a certain OverSimplified video that for some reason has been blocked in your country. Well, with NordVPN, you can. NordVPN gives you access to super fast servers and much more. And if you're not happy with it, it comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Get NordVPN now by clicking the link below, nordvpn.com/oversimplified, and get an amazing 75% off. That's only $2.99 per month with an additional month free for a limited time. And you'll also be helping to support my channel. So again, that's nordvpn.com/oversimplified.
So yeah, guys, I think I kind of covered everything. Great video. Gonna jump right to part 2. I'll see you all in part 2. And yeah, bye everyone.